Yay! Woo! Woohoo! Fuck, I don't know how to put them out. There's confetti everywhere. I didn't think this through. Crisis averted. Well, hello everybody. So I know it's been a while since I made my last video. That Ghost in the Shell one was about a month ago. And I gotta say, listening to his voice and those dings over the course of 3 days of editing kinda took a lot out of me.
Also, otherworldly strength is shown by the aftermath of jumping on roof tiles cliche. This function is pretty goddamn request. How the fuck does falling glass disrupt the fucking optical camouflage? It's literally material. None of speed ends up being affected by Explanation ex machina?
But I'm back, baby! I haven't been idle over the past month. I've been working on a bigger project, and I've been trying to spruce up the set a little bit. But then I realized something. I hit 200 subscribers, and somehow I got over 10,000 views. That's more people than live in my town. So to celebrate me reaching arbitrary round numbers, and to tide you guys over, I'm gonna make a shorter, simpler video. And I got old Glory up here because we're gonna be talking about one of the most American things there is. Free speech. Really quick, I want to address something that happened within the YouTube community as I was editing this video. The YouTuber ContraPoints, who if you don't follow, you really should, also uploaded a video about free speech. And ironically, his video was flagged falsely for spam. Now because YouTube is a giant garbage fire that's just fully automated, after a review, the strike still stands. So ContraPoints re-uploaded the video to another site, and a lot of other YouTubers have been uploading mirrors. So in the description below, I'm gonna leave a link to ContraPoints' video, a bunch of the mirrored videos, and to everybody's channel. You should definitely go check them out. Okay, let's get back to my thing. So we're going to look at two aspects of free speech. Free speech in regards to the government, and free speech as it pertains to society and private individuals. This is the most simple and straightforward aspect of free speech. The First Amendment was specifically designed to protect people's speech from the government. And even within that, there are several exceptions. People do not have unlimited speech. There are some things that you cannot say. And not all of it's clear-cut. For instance, some hate speech is protected, like the Westboro Baptist Church. But if hate speech goes too far, it can be considered fighting words, which are not covered, nor is speech that is directly intended to cause harm. And like I said, these restrictions are on the government specifically. They don't cover private entities. Okay, so now let's get to the complicated stuff. Now the reasons that these limitations exist is because some speech is designed to limit the speech of other people. Now I agree that people should have the right to say whatever they want to, but that doesn't mean that they should be free from the consequences of that speech, or that they're entitled to anybody's platform. The problem is that when you give people like Ann Coulter, Milo Yiannopoulos, and Richard Spencer a platform, it helps legitimize them. Whoa, hold on a second. No! I said this was going to be a simple video. If you come over here, then I'm going to do a ton more editing. Okay, fine. I'll stay back here. Goddamn fascist. Goddamn clones. Why does that even matter? If you have the correct position, the free marketplace of ideas should sort everything out. So the problem is, that doesn't work. The people who are going to be convinced by these arguments aren't going to be convinced because it's logical or rational. So I can show this by looking at meme theory. Not that kind of meme. Also that kind of meme. So meme theory was first proposed by Richard Dawkins.
If you based the design of rockets on science, they reach the moon. It works. Bitches.
The theory states that we can think of ideas in a similar way to genetics. Just like how genes work to spread themselves within a population. It's survival of the fittest. But in evolution, survival of the fittest doesn't mean the biggest, the strongest, or the smartest. It means the best suited for survival within a given niche. Now, when we use this framework to view how ideas are passed through a population, we start to see the problem. We see that the same type of metric applies. When we look at ideas, the fittest idea doesn't necessarily mean the most logical or the most supported by evidence. What it does mean is the idea that is most likely to quickly convince people and have them spread it on. All it needs to do is convince people. And when it comes to white nationalist ideas, they're very good at convincing specific types of people. It does it by targeting emotions. Richard Spencer has even admitted to this. He has openly said that when he designed the alt-right, he did it to take ugly ideas and make them look acceptable. He's taken old, racist, and xenophobic ideas and he's packaged them up in a nice slick suit. And it's only part of the problem. I have mixed feelings when it comes to debates, because I very much enjoy watching them. I think it's a good way to learn how to argue and to put a check on what you believe. It gives you the ability to reevaluate what you think. But I think the inherent problem with debating is that debates are not designed to get to the truth. They're designed to show who's the better debater. I think a good example of this is Thunderfoot. Now, I remember back when I was a fan of Thunderfoot and I watched 2 debates that he had. Those good old days. Back when I was still a Thunderfoot fanboy, and skeptics argued with creationists and anti-vaxxers, before the Jews showed up and ruined everything. Video games have never been the same since! Fucking Anita Sarkeesian got one against Eric Hovind, and the other against Ray the Banana Man Comfort. And somehow he made both of these crackpot creationists look like they beat him, because
I'll just go through the assumptions. Assumption 1, the universe exists.
But we don't know that.
That's why they're called assumptions. Okay, what's your stand?
My stand is that reality does exist.
You agree with everything that I said. Why do you keep saying, well, that's just an assumption on your part?
No, you're calling them assumptions right now. You said that's why they're called assumptions.
They did beat him. Both of them knew how to argue in a live setting and to use tricks and obfuscation to avoid his points. Now, that's not how all debates go, but my point is that you can have somebody who knows all the facts and is correct, and they can still come out on the other side looking like they were defeated and even allow misinformation to spread if they don't know how to deal with debating tactics. So it can be okay. It depends on who you're debating. But you have to remember that there's the inherent risk of giving the person that you are debating credibility. For instance, when Bill Nye debated Ken Ham, a lot of people argued that actual scientists shouldn't engage with creationists because it makes it look like their ideas are worth considering. If you allow people to speak at these places, it grants them legitimacy. It allows Richard Spencer to go out and say, oh, I've spoken at these really illustrious colleges, which instantly warm people up to him and makes his idea sound more acceptable. The message that it sends is that you're taking these ideas seriously enough that you're going to allow them to speak at these places. And I think that's going to do more harm than good. But you're the one that's saying that we should silence people. Right now, the left looks more dangerous than the far right does. Antifa are the ones that are going around beating the shit out of people just because they don't like what those people say. How does that make you any different than the fascists that you're fighting against? Now, I don't necessarily agree with violence. I think under some conditions it will be necessary, but I don't think that that time is right now. I'm not going to address that any further because I've already done a video about that. Links are over over there. It's one of these places, and in the description. But this argument of, as people are stopping bigots from speaking, that makes them bigots, and equally as bad, is a horrible argument. And this point was made brilliantly by Karl Popper. In The Open Society and Its Enemies, Popper details the paradox of tolerance. He points out that unlimited tolerance will inevitably lead to the disappearance of tolerance. And that's because if you tolerate bigotry and intolerance, it will end up winning. Because when bigotry and intolerance is left unchecked, it leads to violent ends. And so the ultimate conclusion is fascism. And at that point, it's too late for everybody who has been tolerant. But with that mentality, you can ban anything. What happens when the people in power decide that what you're saying is oppressive, and they decide to ban that speech? Well, first off, that's a slippery slope fallacy. But I agree that it's something to be worried about. If we agree that it's reasonable that speech can be stopped because it's racist or xenophobic and will therefore lead to violence, where do we draw that line? And I agree that there's a risk there. I would argue that any speech that's going to cause harm should fit into this category that shouldn't be acceptable or allowed on these platforms. And I think a conversation over where those lines should be drawn is a much more beneficial conversation than whether or not we should allow Richard Spencer to argue for peaceful ethnic cleansing. What do you mean? He even said peaceful. He doesn't want to destroy people, he wants them to just live somewhere different. That's not violent. Except that's not possible. You can't have ethnic cleansing that's going to be peaceful. And of course people like Richard Spencer and Ann Coulter, who has ties to the alt-right, wouldn't openly come out and say that they want to commit violence. As I already pointed out, Richard Spencer is trying to make nationalist ideas look acceptable, but it's still built on the violent underpinnings of the people that came before him. And not to resort to Godwin's law here, but the Nazis didn't outright say that they wanted to start murdering Jewish people. They started by saying they wanted to relocate them peaceably, but that isn't where it ended up. So I think it's very disingenuous to act like Richard Spencer is genuine when he says that he only wants to use peaceful means, because his rhetoric is based on violence. And ideas like his and Ann Coulter's are growing in popularity, not only with the American people, but with the people that we elect. We elected the guy who coined the phrase red pill, and who is also a rape apologist, to the House of Representatives. And Steve Bannon, who provided a platform for the alt-right, is in the fucking White House. These ideas are gaining popularity across Europe and the United States. Now, under the First Amendment, these people totally have the right to speak out in public. But I don't think it's valid to condemn people for censoring and infringing on people's free speech by not providing them a platform. You have a right to your own platform. You don't have a right to anybody else's. Okay, that's it. Let's wrap it up. What? Where the fuck is that voice? Who the fuck are you? I'm you from the future. I'm editing this. You're me from the future. Okay, so what's the problem? I just looked at the list of things that you want for this ending. You have a list here for actual fireworks and a live band. That's insane. I'm not gonna do that. That's unreasonable, but this bit isn't unreasonable. That's way more complicated. What are you talking about? You had to change locations, and you had to move the camera and the lights. Look! You're telling me that's more simple? Okay, that might be true, but it's still less work. Not only that, narratively it's even more confusing. We're breaking the fourth wall and you're somehow time traveling? Wait a minute, I'm editing. I don't have to put up with this. You crazy stupid...